I'm here today with veteran Israeli diplomat Gideon Meir, who had a 45-year career in the former ministry, and he most recently served as the Director General for Public Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jerusalem. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So the first topic concerns the war in Gaza and Israel this summer. There were numerous reports of Palestinian civilian deaths and the destruction that they faced, and this spread very rapidly over social media. So the hashtag Gaza under attack had millions of tweets, while the hashtag Israel under fire only had hundreds of thousands. So considering your long professional experience in media and communications within the context of foreign diplomacy, I want to know from your perspective, what was the impact of social media on this summer's war?
I think social media became very important. It became very important because actually it enables states, countries like Israel to bypass the traditional media. Because the traditional media at this part of the world, and you have to understand, at any given time, there are over 1,000 journalists in Israel, which is unbelievable, unproportionate to the size of Israel. We are only 8 million inhabitants. We are the size of New Jersey. So it has to get an explanation why there are so many journalists there. Now the journalists are not covering the state of Israel. They are covering the conflict. They are covering very much pro-Palestinian. And we saw it in the last war, which was just mentioned. There were no reports coming out from Gaza how the Hamas is using their own population in order to protect their rockets and missiles. Whereas Israel was investing a lot of money in protecting its civilians, with the help of the United States, of course, which financed the Iron Dome, which protected the people of Israel. The Palestinians used the civilian population in order to protect the missiles aiming at civilian population in Israel. Now, I have here in front of me a website, a Hamas website, which was all instructions how to use the civilian population and how to talk to the West vis-a-vis the social media, and how to tell the West, and there was two different languages, one for the Arabs, one in English for the West, and how to use the language that every Palestinian who was killed, whether he was armed or not, as an innocent civilian. They gave instructions. It's all on the web, one by one, how to use the social media and to lie to the world and to tell the world a different story. Also, they used the word Holocaust in order to show to the West that what Israel is doing in Gaza is what Israel went through the Holocaust. Totally untrue, totally not right, because for us human rights, human civilian lives is the most important. We don't kill innocent civilians. We don't use our civilians to protect our missiles. We use the missiles to protect the civilians. Whereas on the Palestinian side, on the Hamas side, they use their civilians to protect the missiles. Now only one journalist or two were courageous enough to report how the Hamas used their missiles or their rockets from populated area. It was an Indian television station which showed exactly what happened there. Most of the journalists there are not courageous. They don't tell the story. They don't tell the truth what happened in Gaza. Now, in Gaza, unfortunately, there were also civilians were killed. But you know, in every war, whether it's the United States fighting in Afghanistan, whether the West were fighting in Kosovo and other places, civilians are being killed because it's a war. Because the terrorist organizations, those countries are using the civilians. They don't care about the life of the people. And therefore, we use the method. The Israeli army knocked on the roofs. They called the people to evacuate the places. We were sending leaflets from helicopters to tell the people, Israel is going to attack this and this place. Please leave your home, because we knew what the weapons are. We had a very good intelligence. And the Hamas people threatened the people, don't move, don't leave their homes, and they didn't care that Israel will kill them. So the reality is a different reality from what was reported in the traditional media and in the social media.
Right, so this is something that must be very hard for journalists to actually see through the sea of different sides. You know, you say Hamas was trying to purposely make it seem as if there's a lot of civilian deaths, but it is the job of the journalist to report on the humanitarian side, and they often just must report what they see. So what do you think is then the role of the journalist?
No doubt about it that the role of the journalist is to report what it sees, without commentary. Unfortunately, this is not the situation. Journalists are also giving their commentary. The situation in Gaza was not a situation where you and I or other people want to live. Because the Hamas, instead of investing in their people, instead of investing in health, to have a better health system, in education system, a good economy, housing, they could have invested in housing. Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. There's not even one Israeli civilian or soldier in Gaza. Gaza belongs to the Gazian. They could have had a great life if their leadership would have invested in what every normal government is investing, in their own people. Instead, they invested in misery, in weapons. The Arab world did not come to help these poor Palestinians. I mean, with the Qatari money, they could have saved all the Palestinians and built them beautiful houses. But the Qatar decided to invest in terrorism.
So then do you think that this tremendous focus on the humanitarian side really distorted this conflict into the more important political questions?
No. There was an unbelievable humanitarian problem in Gaza. I don't deny it. But you have to ask yourself, why was there such a humanitarian problem? Because this is what the Hamas really wanted. They're using it as part of their propaganda. This is what Qatar wanted. Qatar is celebrating on this kind of humanitarian because then they can demonize and delegitimize the Jewish state. And some of the journalists are playing with this game. We talk about human rights. Israel is not a violator of human rights. Who accuses Israel of violating human rights? Qatar, Iran, places where human rights don't exist. Syria, where the president of Syria butchered 200,000 of his own people. I don't see that the Arab world is so much concerned, or Europe, so much concerned at what's going on in Syria. It's called a double standard. I want to be judged, not the Syria. We don't belong to Syria. We don't do this kind of things. I want to be judged in a fair way, as an Israeli, as a Jew. We have our values. We have an army which has very high values. They have instructions when to open a fire, how to target the Palestinian rockets, and most of the killing was done by targeting terrorists. What can we do when the terrorists are using their own civilians to protect the terrorists?
In a 2013 BBC poll of about 300,000 people around the world, Israel was ranked as the fourth most unpopular nation, right behind Iran, Pakistan, and North Korea. So what do you think is the root of this unpopularity?
The media. The way the media reports about Israel, the double standard, the demonization of Israel and the delegitimization of Israel. This is a root. Using a double standard when it comes to Israel and the Palestinian conflict. Perpetuating the conflict more and more. Making this conflict as if the conflict will be solved, problems of the world will be solved. Afghanistan, ISIS, everything depends on Israel. Because the media portrays Israel this way. Including a very important newspaper in this country.
A large part of your career has been focused on how Israel should be portrayed to the media, to the public. And you mentioned in a recent interview with the Jerusalem Post that Israel's government doesn't really see public diplomacy as a key component of national security. So they haven't really budgeted the funds for those types of campaigns. So why do you think the government is so unwilling to provide this support if it's so important?
I have to say, to my credit, if I may say so,
yes.
that I was critical on my governments even when I served in the government. I believe that the Israeli government should see public diplomacy, PR, media as part of Israel's national security. Exactly because of the same thing you described at the beginning of our interview. How Israel is portrayed. We don't put enough money into running good campaigns for Israel. We have to do it more. We have to invest a lot of money in it. And unfortunately, we don't do it. In certain cases, we are losing the PR battle. I admit. Because we could do more.
Do you think it's too late to
I don't
win that battle?
I don't think it's too late. I think one of the things Israel should do, and there are some organizations, especially in the United States, who have to monitor the world media. And whenever there's a lie, whenever there's something which is not correct, to tell the world, look what this newspaper or this television station is doing. Now, I know I'm generalizing, and this is not right, because there are some media organizations which are really working according to standards of journalism. But most of them, unfortunately, don't. It doesn't mean that it's not legitimate to criticize the government of Israel. It's very legitimate. It's very legitimate to tell that certain policies of this government are not right, are wrong. I have no problem with it. Because even we Israelis criticize our government. We have a vibrant democracy. We have a huge debate in Israel. We have newspapers who are debating. It is correct. What is not correct is to lie, to perpetrate the industry of lies of the terrorist organizations, and to tell wrong stories, to bring the wrong picture to the people.
Now, another really significant part of your career was your role in the creation of the Egypt-Israel peace treaty. So this has been a very important part of stability in the Middle East, but given the recent mass upheavals, it's become more tenuous. So what do you think is the status right now of that treaty?
Look, the treaty is a strategic treaty. It is a very important treaty for both Egypt and Israel. Since the signing of the peace treaty on the 27th of March 1979, no Jewish mother, no Israeli mother, and no Egyptian mother was mourning their children, because no Egyptian soldiers, no Israeli soldiers were killed on the border between Israel and Egypt. Even for this reason, it was important to sign the peace agreement between Egypt and Israel. This agreement was signed because Egypt had a very courageous leader. His name is Anwar Sadat. He was courageous. He came to Israel and said in the Knesset, no more wars. Israelis loved him. And he had another courageous counterpart. His name was Menachem Begin, who was willing to go together with him and sign the peace treaty. Both decided to make compromises. And the word compromise is a key word. And therefore, because the two leaders were so courageous, and both sides made major compromises, the peace treaty is so important. The peace treaty was a little bit fragile when the Muslim brothers came to power in Egypt. But right now, there is a new government in Egypt which wants to keep the peace treaty, because they believe it's important for them as much as it is important for us. And therefore, it is a strategic treaty between the two countries.
Interesting. So, Israel is facing many challenges right now, from long-standing territorial disputes to terrorist threats and Iran's emerging nuclear capacity. But I want to know, what is it that worries you the most right now? What is it that keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is the fact that the Palestinians are not willing to come to the negotiating table and to talk to us about peace. Because if they really want to have peace, and if they really believe that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't want peace, the only way to show to the world that the one who doesn't want peace is the Israeli Prime Minister is by coming to the negotiating table and maybe calling his bluff. But if he's not bluffing, maybe we'll have an agreement. The question is whether the Palestinian leadership really wants an agreement. I doubt it. I doubt it. I have a lot of criticism also on my government, to be fair, but the major actor here are the Palestinians. If they really wanted peace, they had opportunities to have peace with Prime Minister Olmert, with Prime Minister Barak, with President Clinton. There was a Clinton outline to have peace. 97% of the territories back to the Palestinians. They don't want. They want one state. They don't want a two-state solution. The Israeli leadership, which was very right-wing, accepted the two-state solution. I think this is the best solution for the Palestinian people who deserve their own country, their own state, and for the people of Israel. And both people deserve peace. Both people deserve to live together in peace, to have a good economy, to have a good life, to have a life like you are having here. But at the same time that we are having this concern about the peace between Israel and the Palestinians, I have to say that Israel is a success story. Israel is really the miracle of the 21st and 20th century. Our economy is one of the best economies in the Western world. The GDP growth in Israel is incredible even during the crisis. We went down from 5% to 2.5%. Israel is a startup nation. The number of applications of high technology which comes from Israel is incredible. Incredible. So we have the best scientists in the world. We have 10 Nobel Prize winners, which is unproportionate. The number of books which is being printed in Israel is double and 3 times as much of books which are printed in the entire Muslim world. The people are learned people. They want to succeed. They want to live in peace. But we need a partner in order to live in peace.
And what role do you think the United States should play in fostering this agreement?
I think the United States has to play a major role, because America and Israel share the same values. America is our biggest ally. Without America, we cannot survive. I mean, on one hand, by the fact that America is helping Israel, is assisting Israel with money, with weapons, it's being done not because our blue eyes. It's being done because it is an American interest to have a strong Israel at this part of the world. Because a world without Israel will be a different world. If Israel will disappear, the next in line is going to be Europe and then the United States. The Americans know it. The Europeans know it. We are a stronghold of democracy in this part of the world. We are the stronghold of freedom, of culture, of values which are so important to the American people. Also very important to us Israelis. Therefore, we share the same values. And therefore, the relation between America and Israel, the US and Israel, are in extreme importance to both countries. And I suggest to the leadership in both countries to get the tones down, and even if they have disputes, to keep them within the family, and not to wash the laundry out in public.
Something else that must also be on your mind is this fast approaching November 24th deadline for the Iran nuclear talks. And so what do you think is going to happen on that day?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned. I don't know if they're going to sign the agreement or not, but I am very concerned because I don't believe the Iranians.